All right, well, I'm sure we'll have a few more people hop in, but I'm sure all your time's valuable. So let's hop into it. Thanks everyone for attending our webinar today. For some of you, this may be your first. For some of you, this may be a few that you've been on with us, but we appreciate you hopping on. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. All questions will be answered at the end of the webinar. If at any time you have questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat. We'll address them at the end of the webinar. There will also be an email that goes out following the webinar. We get questions all the time, a request for a certificate of attendance. Just click that link and we will get you that certificate following the webinar. Finally, we'll also be posting the webinar to both our website and YouTube channel after the webinar's finished. So if you're having any difficulties with the live webinar today, you'll have access to that. Also, just want to do a quick summary of the webinar. If you've been on a lot of our webinars, you typically get to hear Karen, who's a lot well-versed than I am, but she also does tend to do a lot of regulatory related with the sprinkling of products that could help you meet those regulatory requirements. Overall, they tend to be more educational on those regulations. This one's going to be a little different, or maybe totally different. This is kind of an exciting time for us at HalenHardy, and we wanted to share it with you today. We're going to be introducing you to a complete new line of products. This is truly a testament to all the hard work of the various team members who have been working diligently, listening to our customers' problems, developing solutions, working on ways to effectively and efficiently manufacture these products, and finally put together the sales and marketing material so that we can educate you and our other customers on various ways that we can help them. So with that said, again, questions, throw them in the chat. I know we still got people hopping on here. So questions, throw them in the chat. We'll get to them at the end of it. So with that said, let's hop into it. Before we get into the product specific portion of the webinar, I know there are a lot of folks on here who may not know us at HalenHardy, so I'm just going to do a quick overview of who we are and what it is we do. So our mission, simplify spill and sediment control. We help environmental and operational professionals by developing products specifically engineered for the outdoors, especially when it's raining outside. We ensure these products occupy minimal space in your vehicles, equipment, and facilities, because typically folks working in the outdoors, they're working out of a pickup truck, a job trailer, you name it. So we're always looking for products, or to develop products that occupy minimal space, and then also designing products that deploy in about half the time and are easier to maintain than your conventional options out there on the market. Our 4 core areas of focus, I'm going to touch briefly on pretty much all of these today, with a main focus on our filtering sheen sediment and other contaminants from stormwater runoff. But our 4 areas of focus: spill cleanup and containment in the outdoors, and that's anything from land-based spills and wet, rainy conditions to containing and cleaning up spills on water, or products for putting under equipment that may persistently leak in the outdoors. Second is filtering oily sheen from stormwater inside of secondary containment structures. Third, which I've already mentioned, but I'll say again, filtering sheen sediment and other contaminants from stormwater runoff, and that's typically around drains, ditches, outfalls, perimeter protection, those types of things. And then finally, products for dewatering. All right, so why do I have a slide on here on where do we get our start? Well, I think this will help you understand a few things. First, it shows how listening to our customers' problems continues to be the driving force on why and how we develop the products that we do. And second, the staple fiber that was developed continues to play a key role in the development of a lot of the products I will introduce today. So with that said, where did we get our start? It was in the upstream oil and gas. I'm not sure if a lot of you know about this industry, but they work in the outdoors where it rains a lot. They pump a lot of water down hole in order to get natural gas back out, and they use a lot of equipment that tends to leak oils and fuels. Now, granted, the entire site is typically in a containment, so think of a not very deep swimming pool. So leaks and spills tend to not get off site. However, as you can imagine, when keeping the rainwater contained, that creates a much more difficult process for cleaning up any types of leaks and spills. What we were noticing was that there was a lot of waste generated in the spill cleanup products, and our customers were complaining that the products they were using just didn't work that well when the oils and fuels were mixed with the rainwater. So we thought there has to be a better way. The first thing we needed to understand was, well, why don't the existing solutions work in wet, rainy conditions? There were two standard products that we were seeing mainly used. The first was clay or kitty litter. The second was white oil-only polypropylene pads and booms. Some of you might know these as like diapers or socks, but either way, what did we discover? So this video will show you. First is clay essentially turns to mud, right? So if it's raining outside and you pour this on a spill, the water saturates the clay turns to mud, right? Quickly, the clay also gets washed away by the water. So now there's no clay left or absorbent capacity left for the oil. Not to mention, just creates a entire cleanup mess nightmare. White socks and booms, they tend to float on water. So when it rains, they easily get washed away, therefore not containing the spill. Also, you're trying to put a round object on a flat surface. So it leaves gaps and crevices for the oil to easily escape underneath, therefore preventing what you're trying to do, which is prevent the spill from heading off site, heading down a storm drain. Also, you have to tend to overlap them, which water wants to follow the path of least resistance. Oil's floating on water, so it goes through those gaps. With the pads, the water floats over top of it because they hate water. Oil floats on water. Oil easily gets carried over top of traditional pads, as you can see here. The combination of the products will do a good job of absorbing, but for the most part, again, oil and water want to follow the path of least resistance, which is carrying over the pads through the pad or through the socks, under the socks, and therefore preventing what you were trying to do. With that knowledge in hand, we decided to come up with a product line that could solve these issues. That's when we developed a product specifically for oil leaks and spills in the outdoors. It's what we call our Spilltration Husky material. Instead of hating water and loving oil, it allows water to filter through it and holds on to the oils or fuels. It's also highly UV resistant, so it doesn't degrade in the sunlight. It takes up about 80% less space than traditional materials, so great for that mobile outdoor workforce who's typically working out of a truck or trailer. Oh, and the added benefit, it's made from 100% recycled materials. So how does it work? So here we're going to show you how vertically an oil-water mixture can pass through it. So here we have used motor oil. We're just doing this for visual purposes. It's easy to see in videos. But the first thing you'll notice is oil quickly absorbs into the product. The second thing you'll notice is this is only about an 8x8 pad. The water quickly filters through it. So at the end of this portion of the video, you'll see the water completely wicked through the pad. The oil stayed in the pad. And when we pull out the indicator sheet in the jar there, you will see that no oil actually leaked through. Also has great horizontal pass through. As a friend of mine likes to say, I don't even know if I can say the word, horizontal transfusivity. And I don't even know if that's a real word, but I'll take his word for it. And let's say it has great horizontal pass through. So not only does it have vertical pass through, but you can also see water can physically pass through it horizontally while keeping oil on the upstream side and starting to absorb it. Also has the unique ability to be able to be stacked. The round socks that you saw with competitors' products, obviously they're round, they're difficult to stack, create any added height. With this material, since it's flat, also since it uses the weight of the water as it passes through it, it can easily be stacked. So you can contain larger spills, filter more water, in larger rain events, therefore doing exactly what you're trying to do, which is keep oil from heading down a storm drain or off-site. So that's kind of an introduction to the staple fiber that I'm going to be talking about a lot today, and I wanted to do that. So what was next? And I'm not going to do this to really talk deeply about these products. I think what I want to show you is an introduction to how we develop products. So if you don't know a lot about us at HalenHardy, we like to listen to our customers' problems and then go to work on developing products. So a lot of you may be on here for the first time learning about us. You may have problems at your sites or facilities or wherever you're working that you just haven't found a product that solves that problem. So we decided to start asking our customers what other problems are they having, and out of that was develop a complete line of leak and spill products that we call our Spilltration products. The first was our customers are trying to use the same white polypropylene products for putting under persistent equipment leaks and drips in the outdoors. As you can imagine, similar issues persisted, which included the rainwater carrying the oil off and around their pads and booms. Also, the sun quickly turning those products to powder and causing them to degrade. That's where we developed our Spilltration Polyback Husky products. They work the exact same way as the regular Husky products that I already showed you, but have an impermeable backing on them that prevents the oil or fuel from bleeding through onto the ground. These products include pans, rolls, pads that can be left out long-term under pieces of equipment that are persistently leaking, to our railroad track mat that is specifically to put in rail yards to catch locomotive leaks. And you can see a few pictures there of the products. Again, I'm not getting into great detail on these, but just showing you some of the products and where it led us to today. From there, we had one customer call us, always my favorite story, and tell us they loved our Husky products, but they threw it on a pond and it sunk to the bottom. We told them, yeah, they're not made to float. Sorry, we didn't tell you that. But we saw this as an opportunity to ask, well, what were you trying to do and why don't your existing products work well for that application? Out of that was developed an entire line of products for cleaning up spills on water. These products address the needs of a lot of our customers, which included first, being able to pick up both bulk product as well as the finer sheens on water. Second, taking up way less space than traditional products. And then finally, deploying about 10 times faster. Next, we were able to combine these different land-based and water-based spill products into kits, but not just any type of kit. As I mentioned, since we developed our products to take up about 80% less space than traditional products on the market, we were able to make kits that were about 4 to 5 times smaller. Kits now that can fit behind or under the seat of a piece of equipment or your vehicle. Kits that can come in way smaller containers because we can fit more materials inside. For example, most other manufacturers' 95-gallon overpack spill kits have about 50 gallons worth of absorbent material inside. Our 20-gallon overpack spill kit has 52 gallons worth of absorbent material inside. So what did this mean for our customers? It meant less storage space needed for their kits. It meant easier to mobilize kits in the event of a spill, and it meant way less shipping costs. And over the last couple of years, we know what shipping costs have mean. And then finally, we took the same concepts of the previous products in order to develop a line of products for containing spills on water. Dams that can easily be installed by 1 or 2 people and dam up a stream in minutes, or containment boom that is lightweight and fits in a container about the size of a suitcase and can be deployed by a single person. All these things went back to our mission when we started the company to develop and offer products that are, 1, engineered for the outdoor mobile workforce, 2, occupy minimal space, and 3, deploying about half the time of conventional products on the market. All right, so probably the reason a lot of you guys are here. So after years of developing products for the leak and spill market, we started to get more and more questions around stormwater. The first question was typically around sheen and suspended solids heading down storm drains. We really didn't know a lot about sediments or suspended solids at the time, but we knew our existing materials work well on oils and sheens. So we dug in and decided to see if we could start developing products in this space. As with all new areas we had to develop products for, we needed to understand what people were typically doing. Now, there are a bunch of products, but the most common we saw and continue to see today are compost filter socks or core logs, catch basin inserts, or what some people call witches' hats, and finally, just taking standard oil booms and socks and trying to surround their drains. Next, we needed to understand what the problems were with the problems that our customers were dealing with as it relates to the existing solutions. The first was the difficulty to deploy. A lot of these solutions required the grate to be removed and installed underneath. And as most of you probably know, grates can be difficult to remove, heavy to move around, and put back on. The second was they were difficult to maintain. Again, a lot of times you have to remove the grates to get to them. If they are full of sediment, they can weigh up to 40 or 50 pounds, so they are hard to remove out of the catch basin. Finally, they can rip or tear, or when they're that heavy, they easily fall down into the bottom of the catch basin, essentially defeating the purpose of capturing the sediment, as it's now all sits at the bottom of your catch basin. The third problem goes hand in hand with the second. They tend to blind easily with debris and sediment, so they have to be cleaned or replaced often. Not to mention with blinding, they tend to cause facilities to flood or pond. Fourth, a lot of them cannot filter pollutants. They're just made for sediment capture, so oils and fuels would go right past them. Fifth, a lot of products try to make it one size fits all or only have a few select sizes, which doesn't work well for odd size drains. And finally, they degrade easily due to sunlight and tend to fall apart. These were the initial problems we were seeing around protecting the storm drains, got us to start thinking about developing products to address these problems, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. What we didn't know at the time was we were going to start developing an entirely new line of products altogether. So today, this is kind of the introduction to what we're calling our Stormtration solutions, kind of playing off our Spilltration. A new line of field-tested, high-performance erosion, sedimentation, and pollution control products designed to proactively filter out sediments, oils, heavy metals, and other pollutants before they enter drains or waterways. This is anything from perimeter protection and inlet filtration to erosion control and concrete slurry management. These products were developed to help construction sites, industrial facilities, and municipalities meet compliance standards with easy to deploy and high efficiency filtration solutions. Our Stormtration product line is designed for drains, ditches, and outfalls in order to capture contaminants at key runoff points. Construction and post-construction inlet filtration in order to keep sediment, oil, and debris out of storm drains. Perimeter protection in order to prevent pollutants from leaving your work site. And finally, concrete slurry management to help keep harmful slurry from reaching waterways. So a few of these products have been around for a couple years. A few of these products are going to be a brand new introduction today. The first product that was developed was our Husky Guard above drain filter. This filter just magnets to the top of the drain for easy installation and maintenance. The top layer is a heavy duty industrial netting that gives it some durability for foot traffic and light vehicle traffic. The middle layer is our Spilltration Husky material, which is made to filter out sheen. We also tested it and found that it has an ability to capture sediments down to 53 microns. And then finally, there's a raised overflow hole in the center in order to quickly evacuate water in the event of heavy rain events. This just helps to prevent the ponding and flooding issues that I talked about with other products. They can come in standard sizes and easily be custom made to fit any size drain. For heavy traffic areas, we take the same concept and put it below the grate. It's a little more effort on the install side, but it still gives you the added benefits of having both oil and sediment capture. Also, the secondary grate that it sits on prevents it from falling into the catch basin and allows for easy maintenance just about 6 to 8 inches below the grate. These can also be customized to pretty much fit any drain size. So it's, as I mentioned, the above grate, a little bit easier install. You're just magneting it to the top. This is going to have a bracket and grating installed below your standard grate, so a little bit more difficult, but again, prevents the drain insert from falling down into the catch basin when you try to remove it, and everything's captured just 6 to 8 inches right below the drain. So easy maintenance when you are trying to replace it or clean it. Taking the same husky material, we made socks and booms for curb inlets, great for inlets that are just in the curb, so you don't have any street drain, you just have the curb inlet. Also come in 10 and 13-foot lengths, so they can stretch longer span drains. Not to mention we incorporate clips so that multiple units can be linked together to filter contaminants on the really long curb inlet drains that we tend to see a lot at some industrial facilities. Next, one of our customers asked us for a weighted sock to help filter out contaminants from wet cutting concrete. The weight of the sock helps it to hug the ground while the husky material effectively filters out the slurry, allowing clean water to pass through and keeping the concrete on the upstream side. So again, just a weighted version of the sock. Each sock weighs about 8 to 10 pounds. And they easily just hug the contours of the ground, but essentially effectively filtering out that concrete cutting slurry to prevent it from heading down storm drains or keeping it contained where you're actually doing the cutting. And finally, different size bags for dewatering applications in order to quickly pump out vaults or other containers that may have sediment or sheen in the water. We have various sizes ranging from 32 inches long all the way up to 96 inches long. So since the development of the Husky Guard above drain filter, we mainly focused on industrial facilities who had oil and grease problems, along with some suspended solids, which is why we developed the mat in the first place, and these ancillary products that I just talked about. However, we started getting asked about heavy sediment-laden stormwater, especially around construction sites. The Husky Guards will work well, but when you got into really heavy sediment loads, they tended to blind quickly. So that was an opportunity for us to go to work on a new product. So here's for us, or for me, the exciting part, introducing new products and seeing the genesis and then where we're at today with these new products. So I'm excited to introduce to you today the Grizzly Inlet Filter Mat. The Grizzly Mat simplifies stormwater management by capturing sediment, oils, and debris before they enter storm drains. Unlike traditional filters, and similar to our Husky Guard, it installs instantly with magnets, requires no grate removal, and is effortless to maintain. It's constructed with natural core or coconut fibers, as well in combination with our Spilltration Husky filter media, which allows it to deliver superior sediment capture and oil filtration while maintaining high flow rates for stormwater runoff. It's easy to install. It has a combination of both flat magnets and heavy duty magnets, which means it's simple as just sitting the Grizzly Mat on top of the storm drain and setting it and forgetting it. Also easy maintenance. Everything is captured above the drain. Just sweep up the accumulated sediment and debris. No removing grates or fishing filters out of the bottom of the catch basin. As I mentioned before, capturing as much as you can above the drain is key. This means things don't blind as quickly, and it significantly reduces the issues of ponding and flooding. It also has extremely high sediment capture. Again, the combination of the core fibers and the Spilltration Husky filter media allows for unparalleled sediment capture. The 2-inch high profile of the coconut fibers stops most of the sediment and debris around the edges of the mat, while the Husky layer filters the fines down to 53 microns. Also, we've designed it to have extremely high flow rates. Depending on the size, we can get upwards of 800 gallons per minute flowing through one of these mats. Also, Spilltration Husky fibers filter out oils, fuels, greases, and other hydrocarbons. This would be the first mat above grate mat that's designed for high sediment capture, but also can filter out any types of hydrocarbons. Also reusable, can be cleaned and reused multiple times. Environmentally friendly and sustainable. The core layer is made from natural coconut fibers. The Spilltration Husky media is made from 100% recycled waste. And then finally, sizes can be customized. We do have standard sizes that we see regularly in the market, but we can also just get us the size of your grate and we can quickly make up any size filter. All right, so the design. So first thing you'll notice is the combination of both the red core fibers and the gray Spilltration Husky. Again, this combination allows for a few things. First, it gives the ability to filter out bulk sediment load with the core and the finer sediment with the Husky. Second, it gives the mat added strength. Just the core fiber alone by itself tends to rip and fall apart when it gets saturated with water and sediment over time. The combination of the materials ensures that this doesn't happen. So when you are trying to reuse this or trying to clean it off and put it down again, the combination of both fibers tends to allow it to last a lot longer and give it just added strength. Finally, the combination gives you the first mat that has both, as I mentioned before, high sediment capture and hydrocarbon capture. Next thing you'll notice on the design is the built-in curb inlet filter on the left side of the picture. So the way this is designed, if there's no curb inlet, that flap will just lay flat on the ground just like the rest of the mat. However, if there is a curb inlet, in combination with the street drain, the flap will be pressed against the curb using the tension of the red coconut fiber to hold itself in place. Next, you will notice the internal, what we're calling the internal flow channel. This is engineered to ensure that we have increased sediment capture along with increased flow rates. What this does is opens up more surface area for the sediment and water to be in contact with the red coconut fiber. The more surface area that we can or that the sediment can filter through, it is less likely that there will be clogging issues and therefore ponding or flooding. Finally, the magnets. There are both flat magnets on the bottom that are placed right where the edge of the mat sits on the grate. These are not extremely high pull strength magnets, but give a good seal around the edge. We also have some high strength magnets, which you can see from the top. These are the ones that actually hold the mat in place and ensure that it holds down to the grate. All right, so this video is going to show you the performance of the mat. This is about 560 gallons of water with about 300 pounds of sediment going through the mat in about 30 minutes. This is essentially trying to simulate a worst case scenario. As you will see, the sediment is a heavy clay base, which also gives the best sediment to see how things will blind over and restrict flow rates. So to start, you can see water not even vertically passing through quite yet. Most of it's horizontally passing through the mat. As you start to build up sediment around the edges, obviously you're going to want to start to use the interior flow channels to allow that water to quickly evacuate. Again, 30-minute test, so I'm not going to show you the full 30 minutes. After about 15 minutes, you can see here, starting to get some water flowing into the internal flow channel. You can see where most of the red is. You can see the piles of sediment starting to build up around the outside of the mat. So preventing that internal flow channel from prematurely clogging, most of that sediment staying around the exterior of the mat after just 15 minutes. But the one thing you'll notice is not a lot of ponding going on, water quickly evacuating. Here's at 30 minutes. So the red fiber is a 2-inch profile. It's sitting on about a 1/2-inch profile of the Husky material. So you've got about 2.5 inches there. So you can see this thing's pumping sediment-laden water at a pretty heavy flow rate at this 30 minutes. So you can imagine we've already went through about 90% of the sediment that's captured around the edge. The one thing you'll notice is the water's not breaching the top of the coconut fiber. So it's quickly evacuating this water. while also retaining the sediment. And the final results you can see here. So as the camera gets down a little bit closer, you can see it reached the sediment around the sides of the red, almost reached the top. So about 2.5 inches deep of sediment around the edges. And then you can see in the internal flow channel, a lot of the heavy sediment stayed around the outside. The lighter sediment was filtered through the husky material. So it's almost the fines are getting filtered through there. But the one thing you'll notice is the water's not ponded. The water evacuated through the mat, and majority of the sediment was captured above the drain and around the outside of the filter mat. All right, so from there, sediment oil capture, it's what we focused on. You can see from the start of the company, we really focused on filtering oils out of water. As we got into the stormwater side of things, we started focusing on oils as well as sediments. Then we started getting asked a lot about, well, what about heavy metals and some of these other pollutants? Well, in order to understand how we can fix our customers' problems, it goes back to what I already talked about. What were the problems we were seeing with existent pollutant filter socks on the market? Number one, short lifespan. Typically only lasts maybe a month or two before they stop filtering out pollutants. Number two, degrade easy. Not only in the field, but you order a few of these to keep stock around. They become moldy, smelly within months of sitting on your shelf due to the contents inside. It's tough that tends to degrade really easy, and then obviously start to build mold on it, which tends to stink and degrade the sock. Number three, extremely heavy, difficult to deploy and maintain. A lot of the fillers in these socks, especially if you were dealing with something like a compost filter sock or something like that, tends to be wood chips, tends to be very heavy, and difficult to maintain, difficult to deploy. What we were seeing was a lot of socks were not very effective at capturing multiple pollutants, typically just one, maybe a handful, but not multiple pollutants. Also made from unsustainable or inconsistent materials. You might get a filter sock that works great the first time you get it, but the next time you order it, it doesn't perform. That's typically due to an inconsistent supply of materials that they are putting inside of those socks. And then finally, the extremely low flow rates that cause ponding or flooding. Most socks we see are maybe 1, maybe 2 gallons per minute per foot of sock. So in order to, get the pollutants captured, you have to have residence time. Residence time means, it's got to sit there and filter through, which could cause ponding and flooding. A lot of times the materials on the inside are powder form material, which restrict the flow and therefore don't allow high flow rates through the socks. So to solve these problems, we came up with a better blend of media. This media has 4 separate components that are blended to the same ratio each time. The first, a chopped switchgrass. This is a sustainable bulk cellulose component that is uncomposted, which gives it a longer shelf life than most socks on the market. As it biodegrades over time, its affinity for locking in pollutants actually increases, and I'll show you that here in a second. It also helps to create some void space within these socks in order to increase flow rates. Next is biochar, and specifically large chunk, not powdered, but large chunk hardwood biochar with at least 80% carbon content that holds together longer for more pollutant removal over time. The large chunk gives more surface area for pollutants to attach to, while also increasing void space in the sock and increasing flow rates, very similar to what the switchgrass does. This is also a locally sourced product right here in our backyard of Pennsylvania. I'm not sure if anyone from Metzler's, I think Pat's on this webinar, but I do want to give a big shout out to them. They have some of the best supply of biochar out there. Then we have reactivated carbon. This is recycled activated carbon that has been rebaked at a production facility and brought back to at least 95% effectiveness. I'm sure a lot of you know the benefits of activated carbon for filtering out pollutants from water. Think of something as simple as your refrigerator water filter. A lot of times these have activated carbon in them. And then finally, we have calcium silicate aggregate, or CSA. This is a processed version of slag. It's an inert fine-grained powder that helps increase the pH, but is also a proven way to precipitate out heavy metals. So this blend gives you the following benefits. First, addressing the problems that I already talked about, shelf stability. Socks can be warehoused for months, even up to a year with no moldy or smelly side effects. Second is they are lighter weight than traditional socks of similar size. About half the weight of typical socks, allowing for more socks per pallet and easier installation by field technicians. Third is our consistency. Same four ingredients are blended in the same proportions each time. This allows us to ensure effective pollutant capture with each sock. Fourth is multi-contaminant capture. The Char21 blend captures sediment, heavy oils, or heavy metals, oils, fuels, and nutrients. Next is longevity, designed to perform for up to a year. As you will see with the testing in the next slide, we actually are seeing increased performance with subsequent rain events, as most tend to become spent, as subsequent rain events happen and more pollutants go through them. We're actually seeing increased captures. Also, we have high flow rates. We're seeing fresh socks flowing as high as 6 gallons per minute per foot. As I mentioned before, some of these socks we're seeing 1, maybe 2 gallons per minute per foot. We're seeing upwards of 6 minutes, depending on the diameter of sock that you have. Obviously, that's going to reduce depending on the sediment load, but that is the same for anyone's socks. You have a heavy sediment-laden facility. You may want to do some maintenance around the sediment to prevent blinding of the socks. But with that said, with initial flushes, you're going to see 2, 3, 4 times the amount of flow rates through these socks. And then finally, we have sustainable and natural materials. The blend of media is made from natural, sustainable, inert, and some recycled materials. All right, now for testing. We wanted to assess the filter media's ability to retain waterborne pollutants over 3 months and 20 simulated rain events. We did not focus on sediment retention. That work was already studied, has been studied for years with basic switchgrass filter socks. It's already accepted that chopped switchgrass exhibits excellent and consistent hydraulic flow and sediment retention. So we wanted to go beyond sediment. The following pollutants were selected. We did cadmium, chromium, copper, zinc, nickel, lead, ammonium, nitrogen, motor oil, gasoline, and off-road red dye diesel. We decided on the dosing rates, which are shown on the results table on this slide, of each pollutant, and worked with the chemistry lab in Colorado to mix up 50 milliliter bottles with the right amounts of concentration for all the pollutants, except gasoline, diesel, and motor oil, which we just locally sourced. Our hypothesis, well, we thought that the ability of the filter media to sequester these pollutants across 20 simulated rain events would actually diminish by varying degrees over the 3 months of testing. Our hypothesis was simple and seemingly predictable, so we thought. As the number of rain events increased, the filter media's ability to retain pollutants would decrease. Essentially, the classic, what I said, spent thinking. Our hypothesis was actually dead wrong. In the table, you can see the affinity results were excellent and surprisingly high at the 20th simulated rain event. This ran counter to our hypothesis that the affinity would decrease over time and that the material would become spent. The opposite actually happened. The filter media affinity was higher after 3 months and 20 simulated polluted rain events than it was on day 1. To say we were surprised is an understatement. So what was going on here? We have a theory. Someone smarter than me came up with this, call it the symphony of a broad spectrum approach. Essentially, we know that the switchgrass decomposes slowly in nature. We also know that The other additives, biochar, reactivated carbon, and calcium silicate, will be most active early on and become spent over time. So at the beginning of the test, the non-decayed switchgrass starts as a reasonably effective bioreactive cellulose with good pollutant affinity, which increases over time actually as it biodegrades. So it goes from good to great over time. Conversely, the additives start with very high affinity in the beginning, then they become spent as time progresses. So our conclusions from this testing: first, our hypothesis was wrong. The Char21 blend pollution affinity actually increases over time in sequential rain events. Secondly, Char21 meets all the items on the wish list. As a practical matter, we're talking shelf stability, lightweight, consistent blend, and longevity, which are very important. It also demonstrated the pollution affinity we were looking for, and finally, a fill that can grab pollutants for a longer period of time. Finally, we wanted to create different sizes that could address multiple deployment scenarios. First, for drain ditches, outfalls, we have a 5 foot by 10 or 5 inch by 10 foot sock. This can easily surround a drain and hug the contours of blacktop or pavement. Second, we have an 8 inch by 4 foot, what we call a chub. These are great for around drains, but also can easily be stacked for ditch and outfall applications where you may need a little added height. We also have an 8 inch by 12 inch version with a heavy duty outer skin and handles on it. This works well for curb inlets, ditch and outfall applications, as well as surrounding larger containers like dumpsters or stockpiles of material. Finally, we get into our perimeter protection sizes. This is kind of exciting for us. It's kind of a brand new arena. This might be where I get the most excited for entire perimeter site protection, or for surrounding larger sensitive areas like wetlands or near streams where you want to make sure no pollutants get into them. We can do larger diameter and longer lengths. For example, we can do 8 inch, 12 inch, or 8 inch or 18 inch diameter by 10 foot socks that can come pre-cut and coiled up on a pallet. Also, we can do palletized continuous length socks that come coiled up on a pallet as well. These can come in 8 inch, 12 inch, 18 inch, or 24 inch diameter. The length that can come on a pallet depends on the diameter of sock. So for example, you get 205 feet with an 8 inch diameter, 125 feet with a 12 inch, 65 with an 18 inch, and 40 feet with a 24 inch. So overall, all different shapes and sizes for pretty much any application. All right, so those are some of the new products that, we're ready. They're in stock. We're actually already selling them to a lot of our clients, but wanted to make the formal introduction today. But everyone always asks me, so what's next? Where are you guys heading? A few things about what's next. These are a few products that we're getting ready to release in the upcoming months, but just aren't quite there yet. That said, I do want to mention them. The first is a pollution grabbing silt fence that can be installed by trenching the skirt like it's typically done, or a trenchless install, which will reduce the time it takes to install and the amount of land disturbance that will happen both on the installation side of things and the removal side of things. A lot of cool features to this product. I'm not going to go into depth today. I want to value you guys' time. We'll probably do another webinar as we're getting ready to release this, so I'll have more to come on this. But really cool features on a pollution grabbing silt fence that can be installed trenchless. The second is a fully biodegradable silt fence that also has pollution grabbing capabilities. Made from completely natural fibers, this fence will only need to be installed once and never have to be taken out. It too will be able to be installed with a trenchless method, meaning minimal land disturbance on the installation. Also, due to its ability to biodegrade, that means you will never have to go back in and remove it after the job. Just let nature do its job. This is nice for highly sensitive areas where you're trying to protect it from getting pollutants in it. But also, you don't, after the job's done, don't want to go back in and have to disturb that area. So, think stuff like wetlands or things like that. You don't want to go back in, have to have pieces of equipment or things getting ripped back out. So working on a fully biodegradable version of the silt fence, going through testing now, seeing promising results, going through working out the kinks for production and material supplies. But that's kind of what's next. Also, with this natural fibers, as we're getting into that, we also see the ability to do the skins of our Char21 socks for perimeter protection in this same biodegradable netting. So what's that mean? Same thing. Highly sensitive areas where you have need high pollutant capture. These things can be installed once, be left there. The inert natural materials that are on the inside, plus the skin being a natural material, will allow it to biodegrade and therefore never have to go back in and remove it. But again, all this stuff going through testing now, production now, but that's what's coming down the pike. So I know I flew through a lot of that stuff pretty quickly, but I don't like sitting on terribly long webinars. I think I kept it to about 45 minutes there. So questions, I don't know if any came in. I'm actually in presenter mode, so I don't get to see the chat. So Karen, if there's any questions that came through, happy to try to answer those.
Yes, a question on the Grizzly inlet filter mat.
Mm-hmm.
Can it be driven over?
You're not going to want to be regularly driving over that mat. No, it's going to be very similar to our Husky Guard in the sense if, light vehicle traffic, not going to be ripping it completely to shreds. If it's driven over on a daily basis, probably not the best application for the Grizzly mat. Going to be more low traffic, or block it off and have your major vehicle traffic try to avoid it.
That's the only question that we had so far.
Well, I'll mention again, after the webinar, we will be sending out the email here. Feel free to click the link if you're requesting a certificate of attendance. Click that link, fill out, and we will get you that certificate of attendance. We'll also be posting the recording of this webinar on the website as well as YouTube channel for HalenHardy. So you can get access to that as well if you want to pass it along or rewatch it. I don't know if anyone wants to listen to me talk again for 45 minutes, but if you do have folks that couldn't make it that you want to pass it along to, feel free to pass that along. With that
Troy,
said,
one more question.
All right.
Canadian distributors and Canadian made products. Do we have any Canadian distributors or Canadian made products?
So all these products are manufactured and made in the United States. We do have Canadian distributors that these can go through. They're most of, or we can ship directly. I know, kind of tough times to be talking about shipping across the border right now. But yes, there's ability to get these products into Canada. I will say that. So, and some of them are already there. So. All right. Well, if you have any questions, Karen, can you type my email in the chat? I didn't put up the slide with my email on it, unfortunately, but email's in the chat. If you do have any additional questions, feel free to email me or just email sales@HalenHardy.com. That'll get filtered through to me or someone else, and we can get an answer to any of your questions. But again, thank you for attending. Really appreciate it. You guys taking an hour out of your day to listen to this. Questions, anything, feel free again, sales@HalenHardy.com or tbeaver@HalenHardy.com, and we will get answers to you. But keep an eye out for follow-up emails with some great stuff following up this webinar. So thanks again.